Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive with us. Today, we're looking at something that's, well, pretty crucial for anyone who's into online role-playing games, virtual tabletop etiquette.
Oh,
Huge shout out to Lit RPG Reads and Paul Bello, fine fellow, for putting this fantastic article on our radar. It's called VTT Etiquette, Online Gaming Best Practices for Virtual Tabletop RPG Sessions. And it was published just the other day, November 2nd, 2024. Now, reading this article, I got to say, it brought back some memories, some pretty funny ones, actually. You ever have those moments in a game where something totally unexpected happens? Like, picture this. Years ago, I was in this super intense campaign, right? We were deep into dungeon crawl. The tension was like you could cut it with a knife, and my character was about to go head-to-head with this massive ogre. I was all ready to describe this epic attack, really get into the role-playing. And then, bam, my internet just died. Right in the middle of the action, poof, gone. Connection dropped, booted from the game. Talk about a letdown. It took forever to get back online. And by then, the moment was totally gone. It was a disaster. But looking back, it's hilarious. And it definitely taught me a thing or two about the importance of having a stable setup, especially when you're gaming online. That's just one tiny example of why VTT etiquette is so important. It's all about making sure everyone's having a good time, that the game runs smoothly, the whole experience. So let's hear from our expert. What are your thoughts on this article? What really jumped out at you?
What I find really interesting about this article is that it goes beyond the usual, surface level advice, like mute your mic, which is important, don't get me wrong, but this article really delves into the nuances of online interactions and how to make VTT gaming more inclusive and enjoyable for everyone, regardless of their experience level. For instance, it highlights the need for a stable setup, which, as you mentioned, is absolutely essential. But it goes beyond just having a decent internet connection and a working mic. The article actually recommends investing in good quality headphones, to minimize echoes and background noise and to prevent feedback. And it also really stresses the importance of testing your setup in advance. Think of it like this. You wouldn't just walk into a job interview without making sure you're dressed appropriately, right? Well, testing your tech is kind of like prepping for a successful VTT session. It shows you're prepared and that you respect everyone's time. The article also dives into some fascinating aspects of communication in a virtual setting. Like, how do you convey tone and emotion when you're essentially just a voice on a screen? It's trickier than you might think. The article suggests paying close attention to your vocal cues, using pauses and inflections to add emphasis. And it also encourages players to be mindful of their word choice, especially when you're dealing with sensitive topics, because, things can easily be misinterpreted in a text-based environment. Another thing that really caught my eye was the discussion of technical issues. Now, let's be real, technical issues are bound to happen, right? Someone's internet's going to lag or their bike's going to cut out. It's inevitable. But the article emphasizes that these hiccups don't have to completely derail the entire session. The key is to have a backup plan, like having your phone nearby so you can quickly connect if your internet drops. And most importantly, communicating clearly with the DM and the other players about what's going on. It's about being patient, proactive, and working together to overcome those inevitable tech gremlins.
Well, absolutely. I've definitely been in those sessions where a tech issue turns into a total meltdown. It's like everyone starts panicking and the game just grinds to a halt. But you're right, having a plan and communicating clearly can make a huge difference. Speaking of communication, the article also talks about the chat box, which can be a real double-edged sword. On one hand, it's super useful for sharing quick messages, asking the DM a question without interrupting the flow of the game. But on the other hand, it can become a breeding ground for distractions, especially if people are chatting about unrelated topics or like spamming the chat with memes and emojis. I remember this one time I was DMing a horror-themed campaign trying to build this creepy atmosphere. We were in this abandoned asylum, lights flickering, players are on edge, and then out of nowhere, one of the players starts posting cat memes in the chat. It totally killed the mood. We all burst out laughing, which, was funny. But it definitely derailed the scary vibe I was going for.
Oh, the dreaded chat derailment. The article actually touches on that too. It suggests setting some ground rules for chat etiquette, maybe designating specific times for off-topic conversations, or even limiting the use of emotes during crucial scenes. It's about finding that balance between using the chat box effectively and keeping the focus on the shared story.
Exactly. It's about being mindful of how what you do in the chat might impact the overall mood of the game, the immersion. Okay, let's talk about another key point the article makes. Respecting turn order. Now, this might seem obvious, especially if you're used to playing tabletop RPGs in person. But in a virtual setting, things can get a little tricky. Without those visual cues of who's speaking, it's easy for people to talk over each other, interrupt the flow. I remember one session, we had this huge battle going on, multiple players, NPCs, everyone taking actions at once. It was pure chaos. Everyone trying to shout their spells and attacks. The DM was tearing her hair out trying to keep track. It was a mess. But it definitely highlighted the importance of respecting turn order in a VTT setting.
You know, the article offers some really helpful tips for managing turn order in VTTs. It suggests using visual turn trackers, which a lot of platforms have built in. So it's crystal clear whose turn it is, and if there's ever any confusion, just clarify with the DM. It's always better to be safe than sorry.
Absolutely. It's about keeping the game running smoothly and making sure everyone gets their chance to shine. One thing that always blows my mind about VTTs is the sheer variety of tools and features available. Digital character sheets, virtual dice rollers, dynamic lighting, sound effects, even integrated video and voice chat. It's like having a whole gaming toolkit right there at your fingertips. But with all those bells and whistles, it's easy to get, overwhelmed or distracted, both as a player and a DM. I remember one time I was DMing a sci-fi campaign, and I got so caught up in trying to create these elaborate space battles using the VTT's 3D map and special effects that I completely lost track of the story. The players were patiently waiting for me to describe the scene, but I was too busy fiddling with virtual spaceship controls. It was a rookie mistake, but it taught me a valuable lesson about balance. Using technology to enhance the game, not letting it take over completely.
The article actually addresses that point directly. It talks about using VTT features thoughtfully, always keeping the focus on the story and the player's experience, and also being mindful of everyone's technical comfort level, because not everyone is a tech whiz, and some players might feel a bit overwhelmed by all the bells and whistles.
Exactly. VTTs can be incredibly powerful tools, but it's all about using them strategically to create the best possible gaming experience for everyone involved. Okay, let's switch gears for a moment and talk about something that's often overlooked but is absolutely crucial for a positive and inclusive VTT experience: respecting boundaries and player comfort. Now, in any social setting, it's important to be mindful of others' boundaries to create a space where everyone feels safe and respected. But in a virtual environment, where we're often interacting with people we don't know very well, it's even more crucial. I remember this one time, I was playing in a campaign where the DM was really into gritty, realistic role-playing. And they were describing some pretty intense scenes involving violence and trauma, and it was starting to make me feel really uncomfortable. I didn't want to disrupt the game or make anyone feel bad, so I just kind of sat there and endured it. But afterward, I realized that I should have spoken up, let the DM know that I wasn't okay with that level of intensity.
That's a really important point you bring up. The article emphasizes the importance of establishing clear boundaries and using safety tools like X cards or lines and veils to ensure everyone feels comfortable and respected during the game. It's about creating a space where everyone feels safe to speak up if something's making them uncomfortable.
Exactly. It's about fostering a culture of respect and consent in the virtual gaming space. Okay, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, let's touch on something that might seem mundane, but is actually essential for a smooth and enjoyable VTT session: keeping your game materials organized and accessible. Full disclosure, I'm not the most organized person in the world, but I've learned the hard way that being disorganized can really throw a wrench in a VTT game. I remember this one time, I was playing a character with a ton of spells and abilities, and I had all my notes and character sheets scattered across my desk. It was a nightmare trying to find the right information in the heat of the moment, constantly fumbling through papers, clicking through different windows, slowing down the game for everyone. It was a lesson in organization I won't soon forget.
The article actually has some great tips for keeping your VTT game organized. It suggests using digital character sheets, which most platforms offer, to keep all your character info in one place. It also recommends storing notes and campaign info in a shared folder, preferably online, so everyone has access to the same materials. And of course, having your dice, pencils, any other essential tools readily available is key. It's all about minimizing those distractions and ensuring the game flows smoothly and efficiently.
Couldn't agree more. It's about respecting everyone's time and creating a more enjoyable experience overall. So we've covered a lot of ground here, from the importance of a stable setup and respecting turn order to using the chat box wisely and staying organized. But what does it all boil down to? What's the core message of this article on VTT etiquette?
At its heart, I think the article is about fostering a sense of community in the virtual gaming space. It's about recognizing that even though we're interacting through screens, we're still sharing a social space. a space where we can connect with others who share our passion for storytelling and adventure. And just like in any social setting, we need to be mindful of how our actions impact others, even if those actions are as seemingly small as forgetting to mute our mic or typing a sarcastic comment in the chat. Think about it. When you're sitting around a physical table with friends, you're constantly picking up on nonverbal cues. You can see when someone's getting bored, confused, or uncomfortable, and you can adjust your behavior accordingly. Maybe crack a joke, explain a rule more clearly, or just ask if everyone's okay. But in a virtual setting, those cues are often absent, which means we need to be even more deliberate in our communication and more attuned to those subtle signs that someone might be struggling or feeling left out. It's about creating a space where everyone feels seen, heard, and valued, regardless of their experience level, technical abilities, or personal quirks. And that's something worth striving for, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's about making the virtual gaming environment just as welcoming and inclusive as a face-to-face game. It's about fostering that sense of community, even when we're miles apart. And as we wrap up this first part of our deep dive, I want to leave you with a question to think about. What's one small change you can make in your own VTT gaming habits to create a more positive and inclusive experience for yourself and your fellow players? It could be something as simple as muting your mic more often, being more mindful of your tone in chat, or taking a few minutes to organize your game materials before the session. Every little bit helps, and together we can build a virtual gaming community that's welcoming, respectful, and fun for everyone. And of course, a huge thanks again to Paul Bello, Fine Fellow, and Lit RPG Reads for inspiring this deep dive. We'll be back soon with more insights and deeper dives into the specific tips outlined in the article. Stay tuned.
You know, one thing that really struck me about the article is how it kind of frames VTT etiquette not just as a set of rules, but as a way to build a stronger community. It really emphasizes that online gaming can be just as socially rich as face-to-face gaming if we're intentional about it, you know? One thing the article digs into is this concept of netiquette, which has been around since the early days of the internet. It's all about being respectful and considerate in online interactions, right? And those principles apply even more so in a BTT setting, where we're often role-playing complex characters and engaging in this collaborative storytelling. The article highlights the importance of using clear and concise language in the chat, avoiding inflammatory language or personal attacks, and being mindful of cultural differences, which is huge. It also suggests using emojis and emotes sparingly, because they can be so easily misinterpreted or overwhelming in a text-based environment.
Oh yeah, for sure. I've definitely been in situations where a well-intentioned emoji was totally taken the wrong way. And it just created this awkwardness in the chat. It's a good reminder that even though we're communicating through text, those messages still have an impact. They can really affect the tone of the game.
Absolutely. And speaking of tone, the article delves into the challenges of conveying emotion and intent in a virtual setting. It suggests paying close attention to your vocal cues, like using pauses and inflection to give your words more meaning. And it also encourages players to be more descriptive in their role-playing, using vivid language and sensory details to bring the scene to life.
I love that advice. It's so easy to fall into that trap of just reading off your character sheet or describing actions in a really flat way.
Yeah.
But by being more descriptive, using our voices more expressively, we can really make the game more immersive and engaging for everyone.
Exactly. It's about tapping into those theatrical skills, really embracing the role-playing aspect of VTT gaming.
The article also touches on something that I think is super important. Being mindful of different play styles and preferences. Not everyone approaches VTT gaming the same way, right? And it's crucial to respect those differences. Some players are all about strategy and optimization, while others are more focused on role-playing and character development. Some prefer a fast-paced, action-packed game, while others might enjoy a slower, more narrative-driven experience. The article encourages players to be open about their play styles and expectations, both with the DM and with each other, to make sure everyone's on the same page and having a good time.
That's such a crucial point. It's about creating that culture of understanding and flexibility within the group, and the DM can play a big role in facilitating that. The article suggests that the DM should check in with the players regularly to see how they're feeling about the pace and direction of the game, and to be open to feedback and adjust their style accordingly.
I've been in groups where the DM was really rigid in their approach, and it just kind of sucked the fun out of the game for everyone. But I've also been lucky enough to play with DMs who were super flexible and responsive to the players' needs. And those were some of the most memorable and rewarding gaming experiences I've ever had.
It's amazing how a DM's willingness to adapt and create a welcoming atmosphere can completely change the game. The article also gets into some of the more advanced aspects of VTT etiquette, like using macros and automation tools effectively. These tools can be incredibly powerful, right? They let you streamline complex actions, automate dice rolls, even create custom sound effects and animations. But the article cautions against overusing these features, especially if they might slow down the game or take away from the role-playing experience for others.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've seen groups where players were so focused on their macros and automation that the game felt more like a computer program than a collaborative story.
Right. It's about finding that balance between leveraging the power of technology and preserving the human element of the game.
One thing I've always loved about tabletop RPGs, whether online or in person, is that there's such a great way to connect with people from all walks of life. I've played with people from different countries, different backgrounds, different ages, and it's amazing how these shared experiences can bring people together.
The article actually touches on that too. It talks about how VTT gaming has opened up a world of possibilities, allowing people from all over the globe to connect and share their love of RPGs. It's broken down geographical barriers, made gaming more accessible to people with disabilities, and fostered the sense of community that goes beyond physical limitations, which is incredible. But this newfound accessibility also comes with a responsibility, a responsibility to make sure these virtual spaces are welcoming and inclusive for everyone. That means being mindful of our language, respecting boundaries, and creating a space where everyone feels safe to be themselves and to explore their imagination. It's a pretty amazing legacy to leave behind, don't you think?
I couldn't agree more. It's about creating a virtual gaming world where everyone feels valued and respected and empowered to contribute to the story. Now, as we're getting close to the end of this deep dive, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier about the social richness of VTT gaming. It's easy to get caught up in the technical aspects, the rules, the strategies, but at its core, VTT gaming is about human connection, just like any other form of social interaction. It's about building friendships, sharing laughter, experiencing epic adventures together, and creating memories that will last a lifetime. And that's something that goes beyond the digital world. It speaks to what makes tabletop RPGs so special.
It's funny, isn't it, how a simple article about VTT etiquette can lead to these deep thoughts about gaming and human connection. It reminds us that even in this digital age, the most meaningful experiences often come from those shared moments. Moments of joy, laughter, and camaraderie.
Absolutely. And as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to leave you with a thought. How can you use the principles of VTT etiquette to not only improve your gaming experience, but also to strengthen the bonds within your gaming group? It's a question we're thinking about as we continue to explore this world of virtual tabletop gaming. We'll be back soon with the final part of our deep dive, where we'll get into some specific tips and strategies for putting these etiquette principles into practice. Stay tuned. It's funny, as we're wrapping up this deep dive into VTT etiquette, it strikes me how much of it really boils down to, common sense, being courteous. But it's also about realizing that the virtual gaming space, it has its own kind of quirks, its own challenges. It's almost like learning a new dance, right? The steps might be familiar, but the rhythm's different, the environment's different.
I love that analogy. It's true. Taking those social graces we use every day and adapting them to this online world. And yeah, just like learning a new dance, it takes practice. It takes being aware.
Definitely. And that Lit RPG Reads article, it's a great guide for navigating this new dance floor, so to speak. It lays out practical advice for all sorts of things, setting up your tech, managing that chat box, respecting turn order, even handling those inevitable tech hiccups smoothly. One thing that really resonated with me was how much the article emphasized creating a welcoming and inclusive environment for everyone. It talks about being mindful of the language we use, respecting different play styles, making sure everyone feels comfortable and safe to participate.
That's such a crucial part of VTT etiquette, and you're right, it's often overlooked. It's easy to get so caught up in the game itself that we forget we're interacting with real people, each with their own background, their own experiences. The article really pushes for empathy and understanding, creating a space where everyone feels valued and respected, no matter their skill level, their experience, anything like that.
That's one of the things I really love about VTT gaming.
Yeah.
That potential to bring people together who might never have crossed paths otherwise. It's broken down geographical barriers, made gaming more accessible for people with disabilities. It's created a space where people from all walks of life can connect and share this passion for storytelling, for adventure.
Absolutely. And that's one of the most amazing things about the rise of VTT gaming, something the article celebrates. It highlights how VTTs have creating this sense of community and inclusivity that goes way beyond the physical gaming table. It's really a testament to how powerful technology can be, connecting people, creating meaningful experiences.
And as we keep embracing these possibilities of VTT gaming, it's important to remember that at the end of the day, technology is just a tool. It's those human connections, those shared laughs, those epic adventures, the friendships, those are what truly make VTT gaming special. And by practicing good VTT etiquette, we make sure those connections can thrive. We keep that virtual gaming world a welcoming and vibrant space for everyone.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's a good reminder that while rules and technology matter, the heart of it all, it's that human element. That's what makes it so rewarding.
Absolutely. So as you head into your next VTT adventure, remember to bring your best self to the virtual table. Be kind, be courteous, be respectful, and most importantly, have fun. Another huge thank you to Paul Bello, Fine Fellow, and LitRPG Reads for inspiring this deep dive into VTT etiquette. Until next time, happy gaming, everyone.